It was just a simple and innocent coincidence he was following her. After all, Cannon Street led to its self-named train station, or mansion house, or even St. Paul's. There was every reason he would travel this route on his own way home. Still, there were ways to check this, she considered. As she walked down Cannon Street on the north pavement, past Cannon Street Station on her left, and across the road, she stopped in front of a stone and glass building situated just past St. Swithin's Lane. It wasn't an extraordinary building, but it had a small part of London history there, as, in a little portico built out of the stone wall and behind tempered glass, was a small, regular block of limestone. Above it, chiselled into the wall, were 3 words: The London Stone. Helen had walked past the stone many times over the years, and she'd spent her time reading the inscription beside it, explaining how the stone was thought to have been a Roman milestone, from which all distances in Britain were measured. She'd even been to talks in London, where strange old men in vintage clothing suggested this was possibly the stone that Excalibur itself had been pulled out, with scholars and academics claiming the act itself had been performed in nearby St. Paul's, although more as a ruler striking the stone with a sword to announce their, rulership. But as far as Helen was concerned, this was just a stone. And for the moment, it was a very convenient way to pause and read the plaque beside it, killing time, waiting for the blonde stalker to walk past. He hadn't. And as Helen glanced right, she saw the man was examining the window of a closed coffee and donuts shop, about 50 metres away, oblivious, so it seemed, to the woman staring warily at him. Deciding to test her theory out more, Helen continued to walk down Cannon Street, picking up her pace and moving on, now past St. Paul's Cathedral on her right, pausing for a moment on the steps to look up at the building. It was dark, and the lights around the cathedral lit it up in an ethereal white, standing out against the evening sky. It was truly beautiful, and Helen stood for a moment to bask in the glory, while also checking for any signs of her stalker, who was gone. With a breath of relief, Helen chuckled. She'd actually believed he'd been following her. Poor man probably hadn't even noticed her. With a definitely more relaxed attitude, Helen started west once more, pausing as she approached Ave Maria Lane, as a sudden urge for a burger hit her. It wasn't even 9:30 in the evening yet, but she hadn't eaten before she'd attended the talk. There were a couple of burger restaurants across the road, and she considered turning and walking back. The stalker had returned. As Helen had glanced back to one restaurant, she saw him strolling past St. Paul's, still following her, although at a slightly further distance. With a slow groan, Helen turned back to Ave Maria Lane, crossing it quickly, moving on. She considered looking for a policeman or waving a police car down. She'd seen a couple pass on her walk, but what would she say? That she'd become spooked by some poor bugger taking the same path as her? She needed to be sure before she called anyone. By now, she was at the start of Ludgate Hill, and the Thameslink station was visible in the distance. But although she'd be safe on a train, Helen didn't want to catch one. She worried about what would happen after she got off, when she was alone on the other side. This might give the blonde stalker an idea where she lived, and she needed proof of her suspicions first. So, deciding on the spur of the moment to change her route, she doubled back on herself, walking the 10 steps backwards to Ave Maria Lane, turning north up it. This diversion had brought her closer to the man now, and as she turned up the street and walked swiftly now, she glanced into the windows of the buildings to her right, noting that he, too, had now sped up. What was his game? To her left now was an old red brick building, wrought iron gates in front of an archway, wide enough for vehicles, although none seemed to be welcome.